video. My name is Azizatul Hikmah. I'm from International Class of Economic Education in Padang University. Now, I wanna explain the material about Introduction to Economic Development. Check it out! Okay, from the point of view of economics, development is usually defined as an effort to achieve a sustainable per capita income growth rate, so that the state can generate output that is faster than the population growth rate. However, along with the development of the times, economic development began to redefine in relation to effort to reduce or eliminate poverty, inequality, and unemployment in the context of an increasingly developing economy. This is not without reason, as a number of developing countries have achieved relatively high rates of growth in per capita income, but at the same time have so little or no improvement or even a slight decrease in the rate of unemployment, inequality, and real income. Thus, development must be viewed as a multidimensional process involving various fundamental changes in social structure, attitudes of society, and social institutions, as well as accelerating growth, reducing inequality, and reducing poverty. In essence, development must reflect change in the total social system in accordance with various basic needs, as well as effort to foster the aspiration of individuals and social groups in the system. Development should be an attempt to change the condition of life from what is considered unsatisfactory to be better physically and mentally. There is a clear difference between economic growth and economic development. Conceptually, economic growth refers to increase in GDP as a whole. On the other hand, economic development is an effort meant to improve people's lives. To distinguish two differences above, I overview the two most basic things. I will try to explore it together. Listening. First, the conceptual difference based on an overview from the old blog ruangguru.com. The concept of economic development refers to the normative value that apply to individuals. It can be interpreted that economic development has an impact on a person's life and has something to do with the value in the individual. Meanwhile, the concept of economic growth has a narrow meaning compared. The economic development is the concept of economic growth. The main focus is only value related to finance, for example, inflation rate, stock, and price. Community welfare can be achieved through economic development. On the other hand, economic growth is an increase in the market value of goods and services that adjusts to the inflation rate generated by economic activity from time to time. Second, difference in terms of indicator. There are four main indicators to distinguish. They are include increase in GDP, total population and GDP, progress in science and technology, and GDP, public welfare and GDP. To discuss these four indicators, here in the explanation I can convey. First, increase in gross domestic product. Economic development focuses only on increasing GDP. Meanwhile, in economic growth, that doesn't increasing GDP. Second, total and population GDP, economic development is closely related to inflation. Therefore, economic development always pays attention to the percentage increase in GDP. With the increase in population, economic growth is the opposite. In economic growth, it doesn't pay attention to this percentage. Third, the progress of science and technology with GDP. The construction of new transportation modes, namely LRT, light rail transit, and MRT, mass rapid transit, which were built in Jakarta, Bogor, Depok, and Bekasi, is an economic development. The reason is simple. Economic development always refers to change and advance in science and technology, while economic growth doesn't pay attention to progress in science and technology. Fourth, community welfare in GDP economic development. Always pay attention to whether the rising GDP is followed by the increase in people's welfare. Meanwhile, economic growth doesn't emphasize the relationship between GDP and the people's welfare. A simple example is the price of LRT and MRT ticket, which are included in economic growth. To determine the price of goods and services, of course, the inflation that occurs must also be taken into account so that the production unit doesn't experience loss. Even though developing nations have very different backgrounds in terms of research, history, demography, religion, and politics, they still share a few common characteristics. Today, we will go over 6 common characteristics of developing economies. First, low per capita real income. Low per capita real income is one of the most defining characteristics of developing economies. They suffer from low per capita real income level, which result in low savings and low investment. It means the average person doesn't earn enough money to invest or save money. They spend whatever they make, thus this creates a cycle of poverty that most of the population struggle to escape. The percentage of people in absolute poverty is high in developing countries. Second, high population growth rates. Another common characteristic of developing countries is that they either have high population growth rates or rise population. Often, this is because of lack of family planning obsession, lack of sex education, and the belief that more children could result in higher labor force for the family to earn income. This is increase in recent years could be because of higher birth rates and reduced death rates through improvement healthcare. Third, high rate of unemployment in rural areas. Unemployment suffers from large national variation. However, unemployment is a more complex problem requiring policy beyond traditional fix. And fourth, depends on primary sector. Almost 75% of the population of low-income countries is rurally based. As income level rise, the structure of demand changes, which leads to a rise in the manufacturing sector and then the service sector. 5. Dependence on export of primary commodities, since a significant portion of output originates from the primary sector and large portion of export is also from the primary sector. For example, copper accounts for 2/3 of Zambia's export. This time, we will discuss the factor that affects economic growth. However, before discussing it, there is important information that there are two components that serve as indicators for calculating the rate of economic growth, namely the growth rate of the gross domestic product and the growth rate of the net national product. Next, we will discuss several factors that promote economic growth. In general, these factors are defined into two, namely economic factor and non-economic factor. First, economic growth factor. There is natural resource. Natural resources are the main factor that must be present in an economy. Good natural potential will make it easier for the government and society to create a new breakthrough to increase production. The source or place of gathering of natural wealth is in the soil, where the presence of the land will be source of natural resources that can be used as material for production. We can imagine that when a country lacks natural resources, the productivity of production will decrease and this will affect economic condition. But what is most important here is the effort to make use of this available natural resource. Many countries have not been able to maximize the use of this natural resource. In the end, many are in faction, many resources, but the results are not comparable. Therefore, the amount of natural resource must be balanced with maximum utilization as well. And there is capital willingness. The second factor that is no less important is the willingness of capital, where capital becomes one of the transaction tool in all its activity. With large capital or with the capital of all parties, it will be easy and smooth in carrying their activity. There will be no difficulty in developing production with the aim of obtaining maximum results. There are several ways that can be used for the parties concerned. It can be from your own pocket, or it can be from loans, from financial institutions, banks and non-banks, and it can be a gift from other parties for your achievement or something else. Indeed, it cannot be denied that the existence of capital is very much needed in all forms of economic activity. Without capital, there will be nothing that can be done, be it production or anything else. However, there is no important nut where the allocation of funds and capital must remain targeted, not just buying and selling without a good basis, because it will be useless if there is a lot of capital, but the utilization is not optimal. Okay, next there is organization. What is organization? Organization is one of the factors of economic growth because the existence of this organization is very important in regulating the course of an economic activity. The organization becomes one of the places where it facilitates all parties who have the same goal. The existence of an organization becomes a stepping stone to achieve a goal in the economy. For example, the World Oil Organization or OPEC, which is a gathering place of oil production countries where they will discuss all problems related to the supply and trade of oil. We can imagine that the world oil stock will be in the trouble when the organization does exist because one party will inevitably compete and get profit more often than wrong methods are also used. And next, advance in science and technology. Process is an aspect that becomes an agent of change in all fields, especially in the economy. The progress of science and technology arises due to the efficiency of the parties who do not get the maximum benefit from their production, or there are regulation errors in the production process. So it is from the axis problem that the creativity and innovation created by each party arise. Science is needed by individuals when they want to find a problem solution Besides that, good management knowledge can be used to find effective marketing process and so on. Likewise, with technology, an advancement is able to make it easier for producer or the parts concerned in production, where they can accelerate work or modify their product. With combination of these two aspects, economic growth will be obtained by the productivity and creativity of all parties. And next, there is division of labor and scale of product. One of the factors that not all countries are able to implement is division of labor and the scale of production. The division of labor must be implemented in a company or organization. We can imagine that when an individual is placed in a position that is in accordance with the expert they have, they will foster productivity and be effective in his work. Vice versa, when a person is placed in a position that is in accordance with his or her expertise, this will hamper the rate of productivity, and will cause ineffectiveness in addition. The scale of production can also determine economic growth, where production must always be increased and even expanded. Because along with the progress of the area, innovation and reform is need to be done. For this reason, the scale of production is one of the concepts that must be done by all parties for economic growth. Point of problem solution. Besides that, good management knowledge can be used to find effective marketing process and so on. Likewise, with technology, an advancement is able to make it easier for producer or the parts concerned in production, where they can accelerate work or modify their product. With combination of these two aspects, economic growth will be obtained by the productivity and creativity of all parties. And next, there is division of labor and scale of product. One of the factors that not all countries are able to implement is division of labor and the scale of production. The division of labor must be implemented in a company or organization. We can imagine that when an individual is placed in a position that is in accordance with the expert they have, he will foster productivity and be effective in his work. Vice versa, when a person is placed in a position that is in accordance with his or her expertise, this will hamper the rate of productivity, and will cause ineffectiveness in addition. The scale of production can also determine economic growth, where production must always be increased and even expanded. Because along with the progress of the area, innovation and reform is need to be done. For this reason, the scale of production is one of the concepts that must be done by all parties for economic growth. B. Non-economic factor. Human resources. Humans are one of the important factors that must be present in the economy, because basically humans become executor of all forms of economic activity. Production will not run without the role of humans. Advance in technology and science will be of no use when no human is able to make good use of it. It should be remembered that what is most important in economic growth is not the number of quantity of human beings, but the most important thing is the quality present by each individual. Good quality in terms of thinking or work will create a productivity in the performance or production that occur. Besides that, the quality they have is able to increase the national income. And second, social and cultural condition. Social culture is also a determining factor in economic growth. These two aspects have an influence on people who are struggling in the world of economy. Good social culture will direct individuals to good things and avoid bad things, such as corruption, wasteful adjustment, and others. And the third, political situation. The political condition of a country is able to influence and sustain economic growth. Where political conditions are stable and good will provide comfort for individuals and super performance in political. Thus, individuals will be free to innovate and develop their potential fully, so that economic growth will be achieved. This is the information regarding the factors that affect the economic growth of a country, whereas general, these factors are divided into two, namely economic and non-economic factors, where they have great interdependence and synergy. So with this factor, the economy can get better and better. A brief history of economic growth theory. Economic growth is an important part of economic theory and one of the most significant problems that economists try to explain is the difference the growth rates of countries. Economic progress has been discussed since the day of the Pythagoras and Adam Smith. In his book, Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith mentioned economic growth as an increase in capital. David Ricardo, in the theory of comparative advantage, exposed the benefits of trade and its role in economic expansion. Many economists could argue that difference in economic growth between countries have been created during the 19th and 20th centuries. Madison estimates that the statistic of world countries would go back 1,000 years. In his work, The World Economy Historical Statistics, he mentioned the fact that income divergence between countries occurred during the 18,000s. Adam Smith, economics and physicopaths, born in Kilcardy, a small fishing village near Edinburgh, Scotland. He studied first at Glasgow and then at Oxford, which compared with Glasgow, the center of the Southeast Enlightenment, was an educational desert. After 6 years of self-education at Oxford, Smith returned to Scotland and became a professor on logic at Glasgow. At the age of 27, he took up the chair of moral psychology the following years and published the theory of moral sentiment, where he introduced his idea that men are often led by the invisible hand without knowing it, without intending it, to advance the interests of the society. Adam Smith showed the economy will grow and develop if there is an increase in population, which will expand the market and encourage specialization. The emergence of specialization will increase worker productivity and encourage technological progress to economic growth. Thomas Malthus, English economics. He studied at Cambridge and was ordained in 1907. He published anonymously his essay on the principle of population, arguing that the number of people has a natural tendency to increase faster than food supply, and the efforts should be made to cut the birth rates, either by self-restraint or birth control. A few weeks later, was widely respected under the name of Malthusianism. He became professor on political economy in the East India College at Heidelberg, where he wrote his Principle of Political Economy and other works. David Ricardo, English economist and politician born in London. He set up in business as a young man and by had made a fortune. He published his main work, Principles of Political Economy and Taxation. It was based on the observation that the differing fertilization of land yield unequal profit to the capital and labor applied to it and his differential rent. This principle was also noted about the same times by Malthus and others. If Adam Smith argued about, then David Ricardo is the opposite. He argued that too large a population growth could lead to an abundance of labor. Abundant labor caused the wages received respectively to decrease, where the wage can only be used to finance the minimum level of living sustenance level. At this stage, the economy experienced stagnation, which is called a stationary state. John Stuart Mill agreed that these factors are important factors that cause the absence of economic development in Asia. In addition, the level of public knowledge will affect economic development, because this level of knowledge will determine the level of industrial progress that can be achieved. Mill regards economic development as a function of land, labor, and capital. Increased welfare is only possible if land and capital are able to increase production. First, control of population growth. Mill believed in the theory put forward by Malthus that population restriction are important to improve conditions for the working class so that they can enjoy the result and technological progress and capital accumulation. Second, the rate of capital accumulation. According to Mill, the rate of capital accumulation depends on two things, namely the amount of funds that can generate savings and the story tendency to save. Capital is the result of saving, and saving comes from saving current consumption for the sake of consumption in the future. Karl Marx, German economist and agitator, born in the rear. He began studying law in Berlin, but through later to philosophy, he became editor of Renaissance. But this paper was closed down by the authorities because of its revolutionary content. Marx fled to Paris, whence he also had to flee he met Friedrich Engels and with him published the Communist Manifesto. Marx moved with his family to London and elaborated, with the finance support of Engels, in the British Museum, where he created much research material on the economy of Britain and other countries, and made useful contribution to the analysis of the working of market economy and property right. His magnum opus is Das Kapital, thousands of pages. Marx completes only the first volume in his lifetime. The remaining volumes were published posthumously by Engels and others. Alfred Marshall, English economist, born in London, fellow and later professor of political economics at Cambridge. The dominant figure in British economics in his time, although he wrote infrequently, his teaching at Cambridge was a major source of influence on his contemporaries. An able mathematician, he sought to express himself in the simplest language possible, adding the mathematical and quantitative material as addendums and footnotes. Like Irving Fisher, he wanted his work to be read and understood by businessmen as well as by students and college. Marshall partial equilibrium analysis. The chief element of his method was designed to be appropriate to dynamic or biological view of economic life. His welfare economics was of central importance, since his dedication to take up economics origination in the moral purpose, and his general conclusion was that a redistribution of income from rich to poor will increase total satisfaction. His main work are his Principles of Economics and Industry on Trades. John Maynard Keynes, English economist, journalist, and financier, born in Cambridge, England. He studied at Eton and Cambridge, where he later lectured in economics. He acquired fame for his second book, The Economic Consequences of the Peace, where he warned against the hook reparation payment required of Germany after World War. The Great Depression inspired his two great works, A Thesis on Money and The General Theory of Employment. Interest and Money in a Short View of Russia, The End of Laissez-Faire. He wrote, Marxian socialism must always remain a portion to the historians of opinion. How a doctrine so illogical, so dual, and have expresses so powerful and enduring an influence on the mind of man, and through them the event of history. Joseph Schumpeter. Schumpeter argued in Capitalism, Socialism, and Democracy that capitalism is never stationary and always evolving with new market and new product entering this sector. He is perhaps most known for coining the phrase creative destruction, which decreases the process that sees new innovation replacing engaging one that are rendered obsolete over time. As an example, in the late 18th and early interest improvement to horse and buggy transportation continued to be valuable, and innovation in the buggy and buggy whip would fetch a considerable price in the market. With the introduction of Ford's model, however, these technologies were effectively driven out by superior innovation. Over time, never and better innovation will continue to drive out worse one. Just as the Model T, with its horse and buggy and numerous iterations of vehicles have successively driven out the Model T and generation of the successor. Parallel in the electric motor market are easy to see, where he have seen the first steam turbines replacement, generation by generation. In the current fleet of combined cycle natural gas plants, wind farm, and so on. C. Roy. Her model identified two kinds of problems that could arise with growth rates. The first was that actual growth was determined by the rate of saving, and that natural growth was determined by the growth of the labor force. There was no necessary reason for actual growth to equal natural growth, and therefore the economy had no inherent tendency to reach full employment. This problem resulted from Harbaug's assumption that the wage rate is fixed and the economy must use labor and capital in the same proportion, but most economists now believe that wage rates can fall when the labor force increases. Also, they disagree about how quickly and virtual all mainstream economists agree that the ratio of labor and capital that business want to use depend on wage rates and on the price of capital. Therefore, one of the main problems implied by Harvard model doesn't appear to be much of a problem after all. Eugene Domar, leading theorist of economic growth and expert comparative economic system, died April 1st at Emory Hospital in Camden, Mass, where he had lived for many years. He was 82, caused by mesothelioma, a bone marrow disorder. At the time on his death, Mr. Domar was Professor Emeritus of Economics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Earlier, he was a developer of the Harvard-Domar model of economic growth, which predicts how much people must save and invest to keep an economy growing. He described the model, which was developed separately by Sir Rowley. Economic development problems. First, poverty and income distribution. Second, population growth and economic development. Third, unemployment and employment problems. Fourth, urbanization and rural migration. And fifth, education and health. Growth, poverty, and income distribution are three variables that can explain a country's development performance. Economic growth is expected to reduce poverty and improve income distribution. It's true not that economic growth in several provinces in Indonesia has not always resulted in a decrease in the number of poor people and an improvement in income distribution. Before discussing further, first to know the meaning of growth, poverty, and income distribution. Growth economic development is a process that causes the per capita income of society to increase in the long run. This definition contains three elements, namely economic development as a process means continuous change in which it already contains elements of its own power for new investment. Second, effort to increase per capita income. Third, the increase in the per capita income must be long-term. Economic growth requires first, food security, energized resistance, price stability, economic stability, and fiscal stimulus, and five, a conducive investment climate, infrastructure development to support real sector competitive income distribution. Income is the receipt, money or no money, of person or household during a certain period. There are three sources of household income, namely income from salaries and wages, income from productive results, and income from the government. Income distribution is the unequal distribution of the results of a country's development among its population. There are two main divisions of distribution for analysis and quantitative data collection, namely distribution based on the amount of income is the ratio of the amount of income received by various groups of income recipients, and the classification is based on the amount of income received. Functional distribution is the percentage of the population whose income reach a certain level of income or less. This distribution tries to explain the share of the total income achieved by each factor of production. Urbanization and rural-urban migration. Urbanization is the population from the village to the city. The unequal distribution of population between villages and cities, which increase the population from cities to be very significant without being balanced with the number of jobs, public facilities, house, law enforcement officers, food supply, and so on. This is, of course, a problem that must be overcome and looking for a way out. Economic theory of rural-urban migration. Todora's model is a theory which explains that rural-urban migration is an economically rational process of urban unemployment. Migrants calculate in present value the expected income from working in city or its equivalent and migrate if the expected income from working in city exceeds the average income in rural area. Todora model has four basic characteristics namely. First, migration consideration of economic consideration, but consider physiological aspect. 2. Dedication to migrate according to the difference between rural and urban needs. Third, employment in city is inversely related to the level of disturbance in rural area. Fourth, the high unemployment rate in urban area is a result of the imbalance of the economic area in village and its urban area. Unemployment and employment problem. Unemployment is a term for people who do not work at all, are looking for work less than 2 days and weeks, or someone who is trying to get a decent job. Unemployment is generally caused because the number of workforce or job seekers is not proportional to the number of exciting jobs they are able to absorb. With the increase in the unemployment rate in Indonesia, the value of people's income has also decreased, meaning that if the income is according to the level of people's purchasing power also begin to decline. This is a problem of the delay in economic development in Indonesia. How can the unemployment rate be higher than available jobs? The government has made various efforts to provide employment opportunities. The cause of this problem include the lack of incoming investment, strict policy from a number of developed countries in accepting export from developing countries, and unfavorable investment climates, global market, various regulations, bureaucracy that are less supportive of business development, and pressure on the wage increase in the condition of the business world, which is still sluggish. Many employers have gone off business or have moved to other countries because the increase in the wage with the quality of work produced is not comparable. This is because the unemployment rate is to increase, coupled with the high level of graduates ranking for SMK, diploma, and even bachelor are readily available, while the number of jobs is not comparable. According to BPS data as of August 2019, there were a total of 7.05 million unemployment. This number increased by 3.3% from February's position of 6.82 million. The open employment rate also increased from 5.01% in February to 5.28% in August 2019. However, this figure is still better than last year's 5.34%. TPT is indication of the working age population included. Education and health are fundamental development goals. Health is welfare, while education is essential for achieving a satisfying and valuable life, both of which are essential for shaping a broader human capacity, which is at the core of the meaning of development. Why is this education sector very important and the leading sector in the national development of a country include for autonomous regions? First, educational outcomes have a major impact on improving the quality of human resource in a region of country. Second, the expected results of development in the education sector are from change in the mental attitude of the community. Improving health and education is an investment value for family to get out of the trap of a vicious cycle of poverty. Health and education are closely related to economic development. Health and education are investments made in the same individual. Better health capital can increase the return on investment in education. Because health is an important factor in school attendance. Healthy children do better in school, or can learn more efficiently. Tragic deaths among school-age children also increase return of investments in education, and health individuals are better able to use education productively at all times in their life.